Where's the best destination for him?
Deshaun Watson would be the Miami Dolphins. I love the idea of Chris Greer, an African-American GM, Brian Flores, an African-American coach, with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, their defense is good. Their offense needs some additional weapons. We understand that. But I'm taking into consideration where he's coming from with the Houston Texans. I don't care what anybody says. Something went wrong there. Something went dreadfully wrong there. And when I look at the Houston Texans right now and I see what's transpiring with them as an organization and how Deshaun Watson is desperately trying to get out of there, so much so that he's willing to go public and say the things that they again, when I say public, obviously through his representation, he has said he wants out. And so when I look at it from that perspective, it's more than just about football with him, clearly. And considering those things and what the Miami Dolphins are representing right now, clearly the Washington Redskins would be an additional organization, but I don't think they have the assets necessary in order to attract Houston to make a deal, even though Deshaun Watson has a no-trade clause. But when you got an African-American president, an African-American GM, and a minority as the head coach in Ron Rivera, when you consider that, along with the fact that there clearly is more than just football that's going on in the mind of Deshaun Watson, I would say the Miami Dolphins are the ideal situation, particularly since Tom Brady is no longer in New England with Bill Belichick, and it's just you battling the Buffalo Bills. I definitely think that would be an ideal situation for him.
Well, if I were the Jets, I'd want him. And if I were the Jets,
more than Trevor Lawrence.
Well, they're not going to get Trevor Lawrence. But if I were the Jets, I'd want him. And if I were the Jets, I would think I need a quarterback who's going to be great no matter how dysfunctional we are. That's Deshaun Watson. And the Jets have a lot to offer. If I were Deshaun Watson, I'd love to go to Miami, and Miami also has a lot to offer. But if I were the Texans, I'm not trading him in the AFC. No. I'm not having this dude coming back and beating my brains out. No, I'm trading him to the NFC. So when I look around at the NFC, you've heard me make the case in the past for the Chicago Bears. They haven't had a great quarterback ever in the Super Bowl era. They've won one Super Bowl in 35 years. I had a guy call my radio show, Max Kellerman Show, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
Well, so, as you would say, what time is that?
2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN Plus.
2 to what?
2 to 4 p.m. Eastern.
The Max Kellerman Show.
Yes, you can go to ESPN Plus and check it out, as you can Stephen A's World on ESPN Plus, as you know. So the point is, this guy calls up. He's from New York. He wants to talk. He's a Bears fan because he came of age around 85. They were so dominant. That would be a great. But let's say Deshaun Watson says, I'd like them to have a little more on offense, and the Bears don't have enough to give up, and it's cold weather and all that. Stephen A., there are two teams in a beautiful weather destination, two different beautiful weather destinations on the West Coast, where Deshaun Watson would be plug and play, and maybe you take him to win the Super Bowl next year.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Rams, where you hear Les Snead and you hear McVay, the GM, and the coach won't commit to the quarterback. Now, Jared Goff also has some trade value. You probably get it, even with his contract, at least a third-round pick. You would think
not if you're the Houston Texans.
I'm not saying it could be a three. Right. They could just flip him into something else maybe. The point is, Goff's been to 2 Pro Bowls, and they've been to a Super Bowl. But McVay is looking at Goff like, I need someone who can give me more. Obviously, right? Obviously. That's why the backup, he wouldn't even commit to Goff when Goff might have been healthy and with his backup, by the way, who gotten cut by the Jets. Deshaun Watson on the Rams with McVay is a whole lotta. That's a problem. And then, of course, in San Francisco, another brilliant offensive mind in Shanahan on a team with a defense and the whole nine and an immediate upgrade. Also, a team who has recently been to a Super Bowl. Neither team could get over the top, and let's be honest, why? The quarterback. They were good enough to get them there, not good enough to win it. Is Deshaun good enough to win it? You put him on either one of those teams, and those teams, probably they'd be my Super Bowl pick, at least to get there preseason.
Well, listen, I'm not going to argue with you about San Francisco. Certainly, L.A., I thought we were taking into account the plausibility of it all in terms of what assets they could offer the Houston Texans in order to make this happen. Clearly, if you're talking about competing for a Super Bowl, those would be better options than both Miami and New York. But I'm thinking about the plausibility of it all, and based on the assets available. The Miami Dolphins have the number 3 overall pick, okay? They've got the number 18 overall pick, if I remember correctly. Plus, they have a guy in Tua Tagovailoa who potentially Houston might be interested in. And not only that, they've got a high second-round pick as well. So I'm thinking about those things. In the case of the Jets, they had 2 and 23 in the first round, number 34 in the second round, and you have Sam Darnold. So they could have definitely, I think, from a plausibility perspective, both Miami and New York can compete with one another to make very, very attractive offers to Houston. That's where I'm coming from with that. And obviously, the Miami Dolphins are in a much, much better situation than the New York Jets at this particular moment in time. You remember, they missed the playoffs, but they won 10 games this past season. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at management. I'm looking at the assets that they have available. The New York Jets, we've got to remember, they've got about $66 million in cap space, but this is the same organization that hasn't been in the Super Bowl since 1969. This is the same organization that's had loads and loads of trouble. You hired somebody that showed up to a press conference high. We don't know that definitively, but Adam Gase looked high. Period. Looked zooted out of his you-know-what. So the bottom
And he was all brakes, no gas.
There you go.
They went from all brakes, no gas, to all gas, no brakes.
I'm just looking at that, and I'm saying, okay, the Jets do have assets. There's no question about that. But compared to Miami, where Miami is and where the Jets are, I think Miami is a far more attractive
let's put it this way. If the question is, where is the most likely scenario where he'd be very happy, they'd be very strong, and they have a realistic trade package, that's Miami. What I'm saying about San Francisco is once Adam Schefter reported on First Take yesterday that Deshaun Watson is actually open to a lot of trade destinations, now all of a sudden everyone's in on the bidding. And while this year, take a team like San Francisco with Shanahan, right? Garoppolo, you would think, has some trade value, whether or not it's a direct swap, but there's some trade value. They didn't have a good record this year. So they have the 12th pick in the draft. They're high up in the second round, the 43rd.
They were decimated by injuries.
Decimated by injury. Yeah. So they have 2 good draft picks in this draft, and they could offer a future first also. And by the way, they have cap space. They got about, I think, at $22 million and change cap space. Like, they could swing it if they decided we are that quarterback away from the Super Bowl. And by the way, guys, I think they are. I think they are that quarterback away from the Super Bowl.
Who?
The San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I agree.